everyone, we're back again. Still here in the mountains on working retreat. I have my good friends and colleagues. Say hi, everyone. We're going to talk about a heavier topic. You know, we're always game for that, and that is grievance. It's one of our big 5 fears we talked about in another video. But now we want to talk about it because grievances are happening more often. It's really darn easy to file a grievance, which we'll show you as part of this video. We have some thoughts about grievances. So I want to invite viewers to think of this as a spectrum. On one end are really benign, minor things that are really irritating and quite hurtful to us as the clinician. And on the other end is the significant things that probably justify a grievance because they're causing immense harm. I think having sex with your client always lives on this end. Yes. So stop it. That's what you say. As colleagues, as supervisors, don't do that. Anyone want to share other examples of things we've heard about grievances? Like, we might as well put them in here.
Yeah, I think if there's a doubt or there's concern, I think one of the key pieces that we got to look at is first talk to the clinician. Like if I'm doing something wrong or it's unethical or needs to be I need to be redirected because I am human and I am perfect, we can always like, hey, I need to talk to you. I've noticed this, or I heard about this and I want to address it with you. I think the key piece that's missing is that camaraderie to be able to support each other in growth versus feeling betrayed or attacked by another clinician. And that does not support the field. Where we want to really support and grow and evolve, obviously there's some exceptions to the rule, but mostly one of the key things that we want to really push and reiterate is talk to the clinicians, have a conversation so that there can be less feeling of shame, less feeling of betrayal, of rejection that really does hinder our colleagues and eventually want to leave over something that was sometimes it was unfounded, and it still has an impact mentally, emotionally on the professional because nobody had the courage to talk to them about it and rectify it. So the very first thing is, let's be human about it and let's have a conversation about, hey, how can we rectify this as peers, as friends, and have that open conversation and dialogue prior to going to that other route.
Right. So like almost like a step-by-step grievance is not your first response unless it's really horrible.
Right.
But I think what Alex is speaking to is the filing of a grievance is meant for clients, but it's also being done by colleagues. Correct. Right. So for clients, we want it to be transparent, we want it to be easy, we want them to speak their truth. But we also now are seeing an uptick in colleagues making grievances against each other. And that's that miscommunication I think that Alex is talking about. What would you both add?
But this whole idea, right? Because we keep hearing from other colleagues, I've heard this, and then we go and report it. I was like, well, that's gossip. Can we say that? Or I'm naming that. So how do I know, and how can I make the differentiation between gossiping because I don't like that person or I heard this versus this is what I know as a fact? And I think that it feels like, and the conversation between us is, it feels like we're back in high school. In our field, no one is having conversations with each other. They're just reactive. And this is not about shaming or blaming. It's about, can we come back? We know that we're having uncomfortable conversations. We know it's not easy. That's what we tell our clients. It's not easy to have uncomfortable conversations. But can we do this, please, before we go and make assumptions that it's going to cost someone else time, money, and a letter for the rest of whatever it is of what they're doing. So can we provide empathy? Can we be curious? And can we talk to each other to learn from each other versus going and telling on someone because you heard something or someone is not happy about something? Like, let's just be real. There's a lot of that going on right now in our field.
Jen, what would you add?
I think that I feel a lot of times clinicians are unsure of if they need to file a grievance because we see this as, and I'm a plain therapist, so maybe it's a little bit different, but we see this more in the vein of mandatory reporting. So, we mandatory report a lot of things and we don't want to do it, but we have to do it. It's our duty. And this is a little bit different. We aren't reporting that a child is in harm's way or that something is happening. We're talking about a concern. So, even as clinicians, if we have a concern about a child we're seeing or something like this, like we might get a little bit more information or we shoot right to that, mandatory reporting site. And I think that we need to do the same thing when we're talking about filing grievances. I mean, there's kind of grievances colleague to colleague, and then there's our clients, the general public being able to file grievances, which is what it's designed more for.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly easy. And I think we were talking about this the other night, is that I don't know how we fix this really, but I don't know that just the general public knows that filing a grievance is not equivalent to a Yelp review. Like if you didn't like the scent of our office, or you didn't like, it's more like you are unhappy with these things. Let me file a grievance because I'm not happy. But that has such severe ramifications. But as clinicians, we do know all of those things that need to go in it. So yeah, let's just talk with each other and figure that out and save that for the things that this clinician is doing something that is putting clients in harm's way. I need to let somebody know about that right away. That's different.
Right. So there's a difference right there, right? Between gossiping.
Right.
And
clarification.
Clarification, and then knowing and that review, because we're seeing a lot of that right now. I feel entitled to this, so therefore I have to do this, or I'm fearful of this, and therefore I'm gonna do this, that reactivity. I like how all of you are like smiling, but yes, I'm calling it. That's the thing. It's criticism, it's fear of, it's reactivity. And can we like pause? Can we breathe? Can we do a consultation? Can we reach out if we don't know how? Can we reach out to anyone that you trust? Can we put in practice the skills that we've learned? Right. Slow.
And use those skills, because these conversations are difficult. And it's hard to call a colleague on something else, or, even approach that conversation. But again, we're trained therapists. Like we do know how to do this, and we can get support and ideas and things like that. But
if anything, it maybe right now it's a difficult conversation that leads to clarification. But down the line, days or months afterwards, many are going to be grateful. Thank you for calling me out, because I learned because of that experience, because of that situation. I was able to grow, evolve, and not create that same mistake. So it became a learning experience rather than a traumatic experience, having to go through the whole process. So
So at this point in the video, we're going to walk you through what the grievance process actually looks like. So I'm going to have us move to a different screen. You're going to watch us walk through it. Again, looking at it through the lens of what a client's experience is like. They wanted this to be simple. They wanted it to be streamlined for them so that they could actually report the concerns that feel really important and valid and concerning.
So anytime you look for someone, this is all public facing. Anyone can look at this. So we found it. We found Alex here. We've got former licenses and current licenses. So if we go to detail and we scroll down to the very bottom, this is that blue little button for anyone to say, I have a complaint to file. So this is where it does start to feel like a Yelp review, according to our colleague, Ilan. So then it asks you which one you want to pick to file this grievance on. So you pick that license and you start filling out some information, and then you can file anonymously. So that's something to emphasize for viewers. Problematic on a different level when I was talking about gossiping. But then there's information you can fill out here. It says you're not required to complete contact information if anonymous. If you said no, enter your full name. So you said yes, blah, 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 blah. Are you filing this complaint on behalf of someone else? So this is maybe where it feels more like a mandated reporter, right? Of like, oh, I heard this from a client who had some other therapist do something questionable. So we can say no. Ask for incident dates. Ask for a description of what occurred. Again, this is written for a client, so occurred to you if you're the person filing. And then you can choose to upload some information. Is there any witnesses, any additional info you want us to share, the police report, etc. Right, so as you kind of look through this, pretty simple boxes. On today's date of when you submitted your complaint, and from there, you keep going, right? I'm not going to, because we're actually not doing this, but Most of the information up here is for a client to understand this process. So as we're talking in this video about how simple it really is pretty simple when you look at this. A few boxes to fill out.
One thing I do want to reiterate is if a client files a grievance, it's not guaranteed that whatever transpired in the session is going to be kept confidential because of the investigation. So
that's that risk.
That's that risk as well. So
that does talk about it could take you 10 to 30 minutes, depending on how extensive your submission is. But overall, meant to be simple because it is client facing. So that's the piece to take away from this part of the video.
Where our colleague had shared with us that this feels like a Yelp review or the miscommunication about not happy with something about the office or the therapy animal or something that the therapist said to you you felt you didn't like. This is where we want an invitation to like speak your truth to that person directly. We all talked offline about if this was a concern, we'd rather a colleague come to us and say, hey, this is what I'm hearing. I just want you to be aware of it so that we could then make a change or address it. Because a grievance is something that lands on our file, right? It stays with us in Dora's system, and then they do their investigation. It's not, it only lands there if it's true. It's there, and then it takes a while to either rectify it, say it's not worth filing anything further, or it stays on your record indefinitely at the time of this recording. That might change, but like that's what's so detrimental to our colleagues. Like if you file a grievance and you treat it like that Yelp review, which Alana, this is your language. Love that you said this to me. That's problematic because it feels so detrimental to us in the competence, our confidence. So please just come to your colleagues and tell us what is your worry, what you've heard, what's going on. That might feel a little gossipy at first, but I'd rather you tell us than click a button and have this on our record because it's going to show up that way. So check out this video that we look at a walkthrough, have a little bit of compassion for your colleagues,
for yourself,
and for yourself.
Yes.
This is an invitation to look at grievances differently, to start changing this dynamic. That it's not just let's click a bunch of buttons and cause harm. So
the system that is set up to be removed, I don't have to see you, I'll just do clicks and it's done, versus me seeing you and having this conversation.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully this gives you some thoughts, some things to think about. It's not an easy process. We're not saying it's effortless to reach out to a colleague and say, here's what I heard about you, or hey, this is my concern. But we hope you at least consider this because we are hearing from plenty of colleagues as consultants and supervisors that they're getting a notification from Dora that they've been grieved, and it may be founded, it may be unfounded, but the whole process itself is stressful and it can actually cause people to leave the field. So consider all these things. Let us know your thoughts. We'll see you in future videos. See you next time.